Okay, so I'm going to repeat what we did in lab on Thursday for those of you that need to go back and review it. So lab 14, repeating this on YouTube. So first, ration balancing theory. We go through, and just like I told you in the beginning of the semester, I define nutrition, working in it. There's three areas you can be working in. All three of those areas come into play here in ration balancing. Step one, define the animal. So we need to know how big the animal that we're going to balance for is, how many pounds of milk, composition of that milk, are they growing, are they pregnant? Each of those states has a nutritional components or nutritional needs associated with it. Those nutritional needs are summed together so we get a final amount that's needed by the animal. Step two, we select the feeds with a purpose. So we're going to look for forages, energy feeds, protein feeds, and lastly our minerals and vitamins to round things out. When we're doing our ration balancing in this kind of state, we have this homework assignment, we have a choice. On a real farm, we got what we got, and we got to make it work some way, shape, or form. There's very little we can purchase. We got to put things together as best we can. With the this ration balancing, we can make choices. As we produce more and more feed, we want stuff that's higher in energy, lower in NDF, higher in protein. And if we're feeding animals that aren't working that hard, we're going to look for things that are lower energy, lower in protein, uh, higher in NDF. So energy feeds, we're looking for more or less middle of the road. Corn, soy are pretty standard here in the Northeast. Canola meal is another protein feed we use a lot, but there can be a number of other ones that we can bring into bear. So we've got our animals defined, we've got our feeds defined, now we got to work the interaction. So we start with dry matter intake. Take a look at that, see how much we have to work with. We have to balance for NDF, usually somewhere 50 to 70% of forage in a diet gets the NDF balanced. Then once we have the forages brought in, we try to bring in the energy and the protein in such a way that are going to balance out those deficiencies. And then we leave a little space at the end for minerals and vitamins and hopefully get that done. Once we're done, we take a step back and we look at our ration. Is it something that just because it works mathematically, is it going to work on the farm? Do we have all the limits of things figured out? You can only do so much distillers, only so much blood meal, only so much urea. Make sure those limits are met. I think it was in one of the handouts I didn't get to talk about, but you can take a look at those on your own. Do we have enough forage? Do we have enough inventory to satisfy what's about to happen or what we're asking to happen in this with this balanced ration? So we've created a ration balancing program within Excel. So we're going to balance for 8 nutrients. If we've got a real ration balancing program, we might be doing 35, 40, 100 different nutrients, and that's just a little overwhelming for your first time doing this with a computer. So I hit the basics, and then when on farm, these are the ones you're going to probably worry about most, except for vitamin D. But we got to make sure that the protein, energy, NDF are balanced right. Make sure our protein are balanced correctly. So those are the big ones we need to take care of first. We're talking about pounds of nutrients. So we define our cow, we define the feeds, we bring those in from other spreadsheets or other sheets within this spreadsheet, and then we have down under the blue section, we balance the ration. And what we're doing there is adding different amounts of dry matter pounds for each of the feeds until we add up what we need to get the job done. If we go across the bottom, the next worksheet that we're dealing with is our animals that we can balance for. These are taken from the NRC 2001. we've aggregated based on the description of the animal, all the nutrients that are needed or associated with that animal. So we go through and we can pick the animal that we're going to work with. The next sheet we have to going across the bottom there, the forages down low, is our forage options. So we have grass and legume mixes, legume, corn silage, and then a few others that are really low in nutrient content. If we're balancing for a dry cow or an animal at maintenance, we're going to probably go to those. The last sheet in this worksheet is all the way to the right, and these are the concentrates we have a choice for. So we talk about the corn-based stuff at the top. We move down to soybean meals and then a variety of byproducts and other things that we could use to get the job done. Scroll all the way down, we get to the mineral supplements and the vitamin proxy that we're going to use in this ration balance. So we go back to the animal page from 2001, and we're going to select body weight BW 1,500 pounds, 90 pounds of dry matter or days in milk, 120 pounds of milk, 3.5 fat, 3.0 protein. So in that highlighted row there are the 8 nutrients we're going to be balancing for. This is what that animal producing 120 pounds is going to need to do. So we copy that row. We start from the shaded area. We go all the way over to the vitamin D. We don't pick anything any bigger. Then we go there, so we copy that. And we go back and we paste that in the B column first. You also might want to add your name up top as you balance your rations, so I know who to give credit for as we do this assignment. So we pasted that in. That goes all the way across. If you select an area too big or don't put it in the right place, the spreadsheet will beep at you. It's protected, so you need to get the right size block in the right size place. Next, we're going to pick our forages for the ration we're going to balance. We're going to do forage 15 and forage 21. There's nothing special about those numbers other than it's just easier for me to communicate exactly which one we're working with. So I've highlighted the 2 that we're going to take over to that balancing sheet. So you need to copy each of these. So go from the 15 all the way over to the vitamin D. Go from the 21 over to the vitamin D and get those both placed in or pasted into our balance sheet. So when we're done pasting, I tend to put my forages up top just as a habit. I do my forages up top, I do my concentrates in the middle, and then my mineral and vitamin supplements down at the bottom. So once you've pasted in 15 and 20, it should look something like this. So whatever's in that red box, that's what we're working with. For our concentrates, we're going to select 4, 11, and 15. I'm going to bring over 4 corn grain dry ground as a typical energy supplement for a high-producing cow. I'm going to bring in 15 as a degradable protein source for my cow, and then 11 as an undegradable intake protein, the UIP source. Notice the difference between the two. In the UIP column, the soybean meal is relatively low. The corn gluten meal is relatively high, and we can mix and match those till we get a ration that's balanced. So selecting your proteins with a purpose, one has to balance the other. So we'll copy all those 3 and take them to our balance sheet. So my balance sheet, I'm going to paste them in. I'm going to skip a line just in case I need to go find another forage. I'm going to bring in 4 and then 15 and then 11 and paste them just like they are in that red box. Lastly, go back to the concentrates. I'm going to bring in my minerals and my vitamin supplement mix. So copy 35, 37, and 38 and paste them into the balance sheet. I'm going to paste them 37, 35, and 38. That's the order in which I'll use them. As we discussed already, we use dicalcium phosphate first, limestone second, and then we'll do our vitamins last to get the ration balanced. So we've got all our feeds in place and we're ready to move forward to balance the ration. So I'm going to slide down to the ration area. So as you'll see, when you populate the feed area, that automatically copies down the things to the ration area. The only thing you'll have access to is the dry matter intake, the DMI column here. Everything else is formulas, so those are protected. And we add things up. So we're going to put the DMI in, the dry matter pounds from each of the feeds. That's going to give us a provided amount in that green row. Then we'll compare that to the requirements and we'll hopefully minimize the differences going across. Right now we're 100% low because we haven't added anything. As we get closer and closer, that difference line should be within 5%. So plus or minus 5% is considered balanced. So the computer program will do the math for you. So I'm going to start out taking a look at my dry matter. I got 66 pounds to work with expected intake. We'll take that as what's actually happening on the farm in some way, shape, or form. I want to have at least half of that, probably 2/3 of it, from forage. So my legume hay and my corn silage. We'll start out with about half of the dry matter from there. 66, I want to save a pound or so, make sure I got enough room to get my minerals and vitamins at the end. So a little less than half, I'll start with 32. Our mixes of our forages in the Northeast, when we're looking at alfalfa mixes and corn silage, run from pretty much 1/3 to 2/3 through half and half to 2/3, 1/3. Usually don't go all the way in any direction in the Northeast. It just doesn't seem to work out as well. So if I start with 16 and 16, that's going to be about half of my dry matter. I look and see where I am with my NDF. I want to balance that for first. So I look at it and I see that I'm still 5.7 pounds of NDF still short. That means I got to add a lot more forages to make up that deficit, and that's what we're going to focus on first. Again, she can't take NDF off her back. We need to make sure it's provided in the diet to get things done. So 16 and 16 doesn't work. I'm going to have to increase that. So I jump up stepwise, and eventually in this class I landed on 20 and 20. That gets me within 2 pounds. If we take a look at the NDF on our corn grain, our soybean meal, corn gluten meal, I see I'm going to pick up some NDF from those feeds. So if I'm within a pound or two on NDF, I'm usually got enough forage, and we're looking at almost 2/3 forage. I'm pretty comfortable with that at the moment. So let's stop at 20 pounds for the legume hay and the corn silage. From there, I want to move on to my energy. I'm 23 megacalories short or more on there, and 5 3/4 pounds short on protein. So let's do those next. So I look at how much dry matter I have left. I've got 26 pounds left. Let's start with 10 and 10, a 50-50 mix of my energy and my protein, and see where that gets me. I see I'm still pretty low on my energy, my NEL megacals in the ration. I'm 4.5 megacalories short. I'm okay on protein, but I'm over, or I'm okay on protein, but I'm over, and I'm short on UIP. So I need to lower that protein a little bit and increase my total energy. So looking at that, what do I have to bring in? What do I have to take out to lower the protein, increase the energy? The easiest way to do that is lower my soybean meal and substitute for additional corn grain. So bringing in corn. So if we switch that out, we play with that for a while, and we arrive at 16 and 8. And that gets us fairly close to where we want to be. We are now within a megacal of the requirement needed. Protein is about where it needs to be, but now our UIP is about 25% short on where it needs to be. So we need to increase the corn gluten feed, but at the same time maintain our protein. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take out soybean meal, put back, substitute in our corn gluten meal. So that should more or less, just like we did on paper, hold our energy at the same spot, but it's going to shift our protein fractions. And if we play with that for a little while, we find taking out 2 pounds of soybean meal, putting back 2 pounds of corn gluten meal, gets me pretty much where I need to be. So if we look at energy, we're within 1% on that, or megacals. NDF, we're right on. Crude protein, undegraded intake protein, those are a little high, but our protein's a little high, UIP is a little short, but we're within the ballpark. We're within our plus or minus 5%. If I played with those numbers a lot more, I might get them more precise, but within 5% is what we will call balanced. There are other places for error, mixing, things like that, where they're going to be a bigger error than we're going to have with our estimates of what the composition of the feed is, what the requirements of the animal are. 5% is good enough. So we need to move on to minerals and vitamins. So I want to fix my phosphorus deficit first, and because that's going to bring along with it calcium, that may fix what I need there. Phosphorus much more expensive than calcium, so let's not overdo it with phosphate and make sure we got enough calcium. In this case, 0.2 pounds gets me to 0 on my phosphorus, a little over, but within the range on calcium. So we're still short on vitamin D. If I take a look at it, we've got 50,000 units per pound. I'm short about 13,000. So let's start with a 1/4 pound, and that gets us balanced out. So if we take a look at our ration, 20 pounds of legume hay, 20 pounds of corn silage, 16 pounds of corn grain, 6 pounds of soybean meal, 2 pounds of corn gluten meal, DiCal, vitamin supplement, and you get a fairly typical Northeast ration. So we're balanced out. We can call that ration good. I played with it a little bit more and tightened things up a little bit. Got some more zeros in there, bringing down the vitamin supplement a little bit. Corn gluten meal up a little bit, a little extra corn, using it, taking advantage of some extra dry matter that we can still consume and get us a little bit tighter on the ration. So your assignment, we're going to ask you to balance 3 rations. It'll be due a week from Friday, a week from lab-ish, day after, it's 8 days. So remember, when you're doing your rations, always paste the animals in the B column, the feeds in the A column, and you're considered balanced when you're plus or minus 5%. If you're having an animal 75 pounds or less, no milk production at all, you can be over on NDF, but you want to be good for your energy and your protein. You're going to have to find forages that are pretty low in energy, high in NDF, low in protein to balance those rations out. So assignment is to build balance three rations in your Excel balancer, choosing either a 1,000-pound cow or a 1,500-pound cow to work with, and then balance at 3 different levels of production. Once you've done that, I'm going to ask you to compare and contrast. What are the feed differences that you used? What are the same? What percentage of forage is in the ration? How much dry matter intake? What is your NEL concentration, your crude protein concentration? We take the megacals provided, the dry matter intake provided, divide those out. That gives us megacalories per pound. Crude protein, pounds provided, divided by dry matter, pounds provided, multiplied by 100 gives us the percent crude protein. And then give your thoughts on how easy it was to balance which rations and meet the animal requirements. Which ones were tougher, which ones were harder. So you've got a ration spreadsheet that's got 3 balancers in it and a summary page to give your comments, compare things out. So you're going to fill out that worksheet, spreadsheet, and turn it into the Dropbox up on Blackboard. And we'd like to have that by the 11th, if we could. So we did the what if rations in class. What happens if I don't sample properly? It means I have to feed more concentrates to balance out the ration. I don't give my forages the credit they deserve, and it ends up costing me more money. We also reduce dry matter intake. That might be indicative of a cow comfort issue, ventilation, beds, heat stress. All those things are going to suppress intake. Those rations are harder to balance. They cost more on a per pound basis to get things done.